In recent years, we have witnessed businesses in Nigeria across the globe grappling with challenges of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Unfortunately, these ripple effects of these challenges have led to the failure of many once thriving enterprises in our dear country, Nigeria, often due to inadequate preparedness, lack of innovation, or an inability to adapt to the rapidly changing complex Nigerian business environment. This symposium, therefore, is not just a gathering, but a crucial call to action. As leaders and visionaries, we must explore sustainable strategies that enable businesses to not only survive, but thrive in the face of these many challenges. Today, we have an exceptional lineup of speakers and panelists who will share actionable insights to help us navigate these realities and foster resilience in our different organizations. I would like to acknowledge the incredible efforts of the planning committee, whose dedication and commitment have brought us this far. Your hard work is truly commendable. To our speakers, to our panelists, to all participants, thank you for contributing your time, your expertise, and insights. Together, we are driving an impactful solutions that will influence business and communities for years to come. Welcome to what promises to be a truly transformative experience. Thank you.
Yes, so that was a proper welcome address. All the one I've been doing was just like preparing the way for that welcome address. Yes. So we'll need to have the opening remarks, and then I need to invite someone special to come and introduce the person who will make the opening remarks. Please join me to welcome from the same award-winning class, EMBA28, Okechukwu Ohanta.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished panelists, and members of the press. I especially welcome you to this very important symposium event organized by EMBA28 of Lagos Business School. My task here is simple. It is my honor, it is my privilege to welcome and introduce the guest of honor who has graced this event with her presence. She's a transformative leader, and she has made great impact in the corporate business world. And I'll crave your indulgence to please give us some seconds of your time to listen to her bio.
Dr. Owen Omogiafo is the President and Group CEO of Transnational Corporation PLC Transcorp, Nigeria's largest listed diversified conglomerate with strategic investments in the hospitality, oil and gas and power sectors. Prior to her current role, Owen was the first female MD CEO of Transcorp Hotels PLC, where she drove the completion of the $132 million renovation of Transcorp Hilton Abuja. She has over 2 decades of experience in organizational development, human capital management, financial services, hospitality, and the energy sectors. She has held various leadership roles, including the Director of Resources at Hares Holdings Limited, HR advisor to the Group Managing Director at the United Bank for Africa PLC, and an organization and human performance consultant at Accenture, specializing in change management. Owen holds a BSc double honors in sociology and anthropology from the University of Benin, an MSc in human resource management from the London School of Economics and Political Science, and 2 honorary doctorate degrees in engineering and business management. She's an alumnus of our prestigious Lagos Business School and ACE Business School, Spain. She's a member of the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development, United Kingdom, a member of the Chartered Institute for Personnel Management in Nigeria. She sits on the boards of Afriland Properties Limited, Transcorp Power Limited, TransAfam Power Limited, Transcorp Hotels PLC, and Abuja Electricity Distribution Company. She currently serves as the president of the Lagos Business School Alumni Association. Owen is a multiple award-winning professional and has been recognized as one of Africa's top 100 women in leadership and one of the 100 most influential African women. In May 2023, she was conferred with the National Honor of Officer of the Order of the Niger for her outstanding contributions to the nation. In June 2023, she was awarded the Businesswoman of the Year by the All Africa Business Leaders Award. In 2024, Owen was recognized as one of the most influential people of African descent by MEPAC in their Global Top 100 Futurists and Innovators edition. She's married with 3 children. With a resounding round of applause and a warm welcome, join me in welcoming Dr. Owen Omoziako.
Good morning, everyone. I was saying to I said this washing. And I don't understand this, who you are trying to pressure and tension with that professional picture that was just there like that. You know, sometimes you'll be like, thank God I don't allow them put on too much makeup or edit the picture too much so that people are not saying. And then so hi, everyone. Good morning. Very happy to be here today. I see some familiar faces and people from the great, good morning, sir. Our great institute, the Lagos Business School. Please, can we give a shout out and a clap for our institution? This side of the room. So, thank you so very much for the honor of asking me to join you today. I understand the speaker that's supposed to come before me because Sam really loves our school. I hear he has driven all the way to Aja to go and address you. No, Sam is fantastic. So it's an honor to be here. So today I'm standing here in 2 capacities. One is as the president and group CEO of Transcorp Group, because it fits a whole lot when we discuss, building businesses within the VUCA environment. And second, as the president of the Lagos Business School Alumni Association. And perhaps last, which I didn't say before, as one of us, we. I want to start by congratulating and commending the EMBA28. The way they've taken this thing, please can you give us a round of applause. The level of follow-up and close marking that Okechukwu Ohanta, where's that gentleman, has given me. In fact, had reached out some months ago, like, I want to come and see you. You know, once people tell you they want to come and see you, normally, what are they coming to tell you? So I was like, I said, no problem, because once calls, I will always free up. I said, come. Then he came and he was laying manifesto. I said, you mean this is what you wanted? Like, no, now it's not that serious. You can just send me WhatsApp message and I'll tell you in or out, depending on my schedule. But he's been so diligent in pushing and being being so malleable to accommodate my schedule, because it's been very, very busy. It's been a very busy few weeks, few months. I can see some faces in the room that I think we go to the same church, and they probably have not seen me in church for a while. It's due to, it's been very hectic. We see, one thing I like about our school, we are innovators. We just did Alumni Day and we focused on AI. Today, we're doing EMBA28 Symposium, and we're talking about business development and sustainability in a VUCA world. And you know why I like attending conferences like this? It's like free expo for me. So last week, I spoke on a panel in France, and we're talking about technology as a disruptor. And what was interesting, the moderator had asked me, like, oh, does Transcorp have investment in technology? I said, no, we have more than that. We operate business in Nigeria. We operate business in Africa. Trust me, there's nothing you can bring under the sun that we don't have experience in because of where we operate. And of course, I had to chuck in our AI conference when I was there, and the Honorable Minister was in the conference. I mentioned that he spoke at our panel. Please, can we hail our Lagos Business School, because it's not easy. So in 2016 was when I was first exposed to this 4-letter acronym, VUCA. Volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. This was in New York, GE Leadership Program. Trust me, the people that wrote about VUCA at the time did not expect the world that we are dealing in today. I see my forever Madam Annie in the audience, because we're both from Accenture. Annie was one of my very first managers in Accenture. We used to look at those predictability and do different privately, as I used to say, the YDX permutation then. But I don't think anybody actually ever expected that the world would get as uncertain as it is. I ask myself, do we even still talk about 5-year strategy? Hello? Do you still talk about 5-year strategy? Even for 1-year strategy, you find yourself that by month 2, you are calling a meeting again to change it, to revise it, because things just keep changing and changing and changing. We've seen what's going on in France. For the first time since the 1812, they said, or something, through a referendum, they've told the Prime Minister to step down. It lets you know how much the world is changing. We've seen the disruptive impact of social media. If you are not on social media, you are on the wrong lane. Let me say it again. And when I say social media, I don't mean only LinkedIn, because that was when people will be telling themselves now, but I'm on LinkedIn, or my WhatsApp status. If you are not there, I say being there does not make you a content creator. Please, let's not get it confused. You can just even have a page and just put like a whole placeholder and you are following. That is where you get the news literally as it is hot. Unfiltered, undiluted, in a lot of cases spiced. So you would also have to use the discernment that God blessed each and every one of us to know what is the truth and what is fiction. But it's somewhere to be a part of. Because that is where you get a lot of the information that helps you be able to survive in a VUCA world. I said to people that in today's world, I mean, it's not something that's special. It's what we know, but I like to repeat it. Knowledge has become a commodity. And you remember when we were in Accenture, there was this thing we called KX, Knowledge Exchange. Knowledge Exchange is like the Google of today. Those days, that's what consulting firms used to have as an edge over people. So they had all this knowledge that they had put in a platform. So anything you are doing, you will go to KX, you will type it in, things will come up. Today, it's Google. In fact, Google is too far. AI, in fact, let's not even, my Meta AI on my WhatsApp, and the way it presents the information to you, it does not waste time with too much talk. Straight to the point. It's rare for it to give you more than 6 or 7 bullet points on a topic that you ask for. But you see, something I've just said that in my last sentence, you have to ask for it. So whilst knowledge is now a commodity, what is not yet a commodity is our pursuit for knowledge. Hello? Knowledge is around us. But what are we valuing it? What are we using it to do? And why knowledge is really, really critical. I would dial back to my sociology days. It says knowledge of your past helps you understand your present and predict your future. Volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. What do you use to demystify those 4 components? Knowledge, data, deep analysis, understanding and appreciating that you are not the most, if you're the smartest person in the room always, you need to change your room because there's a problem with that room. Can we give a round of applause to Samu Wanze, who has just come back from his trip to Did you buy bread? By the way, I'm so glad I'm going before Sam, because Sam is a phenomenal speaker, and I was feeling tension before, like, oh God, I'll not come after Sam. He's been my friend for over 14 years. We've been traveling our corporate journey together. So, back at it. Knowledge. A mentor told me when I was 21 years old, early days of my career, if you don't know what you are doing, someone will do you. If you don't know what you are doing, someone will do you. Someone is only able to sell you a bridge in Brazil because you do not understand how those things operate. But we must seek knowledge. I think we should understand something. You see that VUCA? VUCA has become the reality. If we look at our country, I try not to reel off too much facts and figures and whatnot. We've had a lot of changes. If you look at our inflation rate, it's gone up to 33.82% by end of October. Our FX continues to rise. I just had my board meeting 2 days ago. Q1 of 2023, we were at 421 naira. October, 1,689 naira. Cost of living is at an all-time high. We've seen the minimum wage that has gone up. And these are things that will continue to trigger economic uncertainty. However, everyone knows, or everyone who has foresight knows that in uncertainty and challenges, there's always a room for opportunity. And that's why you find that quite a number of very smart people are able to create wealth during uncertainty. Let's go to the period I would say has been the most disruptive for most of us, if not everybody in this room. 2020, COVID-19. When we're all running, screaming, the sky is falling, our heads are going off. So while some of us were wearing masks and hiding, who wore double mask here? Do you remember the face shield? How many people had face shield? In fact, because we like to socialize, women, it now became fashionable. Different face shield had different color. People were now doing designer masks that would match their damask and ashwebi. How they were not suffocating, I still don't know. But whilst we were running around doing that, do you know some people became billionaires? Have you met them? And how did they become billionaires? And they really became billionaires. They started setting up COVID test centers. And literally, you only needed small money, pere money, to do that. You didn't need much. Please, is there anybody here that went to do COVID test and they had to serve you tea and coffee or whatever? They had one shed. Come, violate your nostrils and everything. Tell you go away, fill one form. That was all. And you were paying a lot of money. As the skies opened and you had to travel to different countries, you did the test. Corporates, as they were coming back to work, they were doing this test. So people made money. At a time where I dare say 95% of us in this room were hiding our heads. So as we continue to navigate the VUCA world, we should continue to ask ourselves, what does this portend for the business that I am currently in? Whether as a business owner or an employee. Because successful employees are those who are able to think like business owners. You have to understand where your company is going to and understand how that VUCA world is going to affect you. Because if you're saying, oh, I'm just doing my job, this is what they employed me to do, no problem. What you were employed to do, tell me it does not exist. We ask ourselves. Let me bring it down to Transcorp Group. Today, we are at a market capitalization, combined market cap of about $2.6 billion. That's not what we were. And by the way, it's only 2.6 because of this, our exchange rate. So if I use the former exchange rate, closer to about $10 billion. But that's not where we were. I became Group CEO March 25th, 2020. For those that remember, that was the time they did the lockdown. Everybody go to your house. The Transcorp Hilton Hotel, that is like the most vibrant place in Nigeria, was a ghost town. We had occupancy of about 5%. This is the hotel that you are trying to book. Normally, you cannot get space. But we kept our heads. And when you are dealing with uncertainty as a leader, it's very important that you are able to let your employees, your stakeholders, look towards a positive future. It will interest you to know that when a lot of people were really hiding there, when we were on lockdown, we had organized ourselves into different groups and we're forming strategies of once we come out of the lockdown, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to do. During lockdown, as a hospitality business, that side, how do we stay connected? We didn't shut down that hotel. We kept it running. We did the first ever drive, what do they call that thing? When you drive in your car and there's cinema outside. We're doing food deliveries. The famous Transcorp Hilton was humbled. We're doing food delivery. You order food, we'll deliver it to you. And that's also a trait that you need to have in a VUCA world, your adaptability and dynamism. Understand how you switch from one perspective to another for success. We rode the wave. And last year, Transcorp Hotels has emerged as one of the companies with over 1 trillion naira valuation, from coming from a loss of 10 billion in that year. Thank you. Where you have challenges, you have opportunities. But the person or the people who can keep their head, who can continue to sustain and motivate those that work with them, those who can stand as true leaders, are those who are able to win in a VUCA world. And for all of us in this room, we have an advantage. Do you know the advantage? The LBS advantage. Because being a part of the LBS, you're part of a community. You have an access to knowledge that people, yes, you can have other business schools, but there's nothing like doing business in Africa. And that lets you understand business in Africa. When I tell you, I say, look, please, what I'm facing is not what you are facing. Please, let's come back. Let's talk. I say, look, are you the water board of your company where you are? Are you the security man of your company? I said, look, when I'm talking, please, I'm not saying I don't learn from them, but there are things that we face here that others don't face. And that's why when our people japa, they do well. Because we've been groomed in a certain way. So I urge you, as you are part of the Lagos Business School, focus on the learnings you're having. We have one of the best sustainability and ethics programs. I've been exposed to a number. And the one I got from the Lagos Business School still stands heads and shoulders above, because it's not talk. It's not just based on theory. It's very practical to our real life. You also have access to an alumni network of over 8,000 Africans and some non-Africans that you can tap into. Use the knowledge that you have, extend yourself, provide support, have your familiar spare within you, but still seek to stretch. So as you go into your symposium, I wish you a very fantastic knowledge session. I congratulate the class, I congratulate the committee, and there is our beautiful chairperson, Timine Pere. just walking in, looking very dazzling in her Lagos Business School blue outfit. See, we're always on brand and on point. And I see your blue shoes as well. Thank you very much. Me, I don't have blue today because from here I'm going to the NGX. We're getting an award, so I have to go there. But I say welcome again to everyone. And without further ado, I would hereby state the symposium open. And I wish you all great deliberation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Not yet. Yeah. All right, Dr. Owen, I was about to ask if you can give me one of the doctorates you are not using first. Just for 2 weeks, I will return it. So I'd like to present a plaque to our guest.
Thank you so much, Dr. Owen, for that insightful opening remarks. At least you've charged us and set the tone for the symposium. So permit me to invite Dr. Okechukwu Ama up to help us present our plaque.
Now we're going to be moving to show and setting on a bigger speed. We would like to invite Chineye to come tell us who is our keynote address speaker.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Okay, so without further ado, we're moving on to the second, our keynote speech. The person who is going to be giving us this speech is a transformative and experienced, I don't know if I would just classify him under finance because he's a full-on executive and there's a lot he's going to take us through when we talk about the VUCA world. So, but before I go into any of the details, I'll just create an indulgence for a minute while we play his bio. Thank you.
With extensive experience in finance, investments, and strategic leadership, currently serving as the Executive Director and Chief Finance Officer at Hears Energies and Chief Investment Officer at Hears Holding Group. Prior to his current role, Sam has held several leadership positions, including Director of Finance and Investment at Hears Holding, CEO of Hears Holding Capital Limited, and Acting CEO of Ten Oil Petroleum and Energy Services Limited. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Sam Wanze, our keynote speaker.
Good morning, everyone. You know, sometimes when they read your this thing, what is that me? Was that me they were talking about? So I kind of get that feeling sometimes. I always get this very interesting stare most places where I go to speak. So before my picture goes up and all, and they say, "Oh, this is the guy that's coming." And they say, "Who brought this teenager to come and talk to us?" I remember very well. This is a true story. True story. I lie not. I was a CFO of a bank when I was very young. I was in my 20s. I'm very old now, which age I will not reveal. But when I was very young, many years ago, I was CFO of a bank, very young. I was going to deliver my first presentation to the board of the bank where I was working in. And the way I normally work, I work by myself. So I walked into the boardroom and was connecting my laptop to the projector. You know those days when you use projector. So as I was connecting it, everything was kind of failing. Board members were sitting there. The chairman of the board was there. And the chairman said, after a while, just me struggling, trying to get everything up and running, the chairman said, young man, can you tell the CFO to come in and stop wasting our time here? And I said, yes, sir. And I finished connecting and I said, good afternoon, sir. My name is Samuel Wanze. I'm the CFO of the bank. So I'm used to it. So first of all, let me say a big thank you to all the organizers. I feel I'm amongst friends. So Owen I've worked with for over 200 years. Okay and I, we've done all sorts of things together. I wasn't surprised as I was coming in, I saw Charles, who I haven't seen in like 500 years. I looked and I saw Ike and I hear he's going to be on the panel. So I feel like I'm among friends. So it's good. It makes me feel like I'm in a comfortable place. But I just want to say thank you. I mean, for me, it's a pleasure to be here to, say a few words around this concept of business sustainability in the VUCA world. I think my introduction has been made. And so what I want to do today in very short time, I'm not going to take too much time. I just have a few slides. And I may not necessarily walk through the slides, but just take a little time and just explain what it truly means to be sustainable, to have a sustainable business in what we've termed a VUCA world. The concept of business sustainability I'll be talking about is not in the environmental sustainability sense. As a matter of fact, when I got the topic, I had prepared a whole set of slides around environmental sustainability, ESG, and the rest. And then when I had a conversation with Oke said, no. We are talking about how a business can survive in VUCA. And I said, thank you very much. That's easier for me to deal with. And so I'll be talking about business sustainability from the concept of surviving, adapting, and thriving in the middle of a world that is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. So we'll look, I'm not going to go into anything too detailed. Honestly, I would have loved to be a bit more practical, but I consider the kind of event that we have, and then I will just focus on some broad strategies and a couple of things that I think we can take home and deepen when the panel comes out to have conversations where we can get some practical knowledge and tips to work with. Okay, so first is to understand the concept of VUCA. When I thought about, normally when I'm thinking about something to write on, I first of all draw, I think photographically, so I kind of like mapped out what I was going to talk about. So the first thing I wanted to say, okay, let's first of all establish what this whole VUCA thing is about. And the image I wanted to put on this slide was an image of Nigeria. So if you want to understand VUCA, just look at our country. Because the concept itself, what we are going through in our markets today, and indeed across the world, clearly, in all ramifications, explains what this concept is about. And the term itself, VUCA, many people don't know, actually came from the US military. The military, what they did was, as part of their training, they tried to develop strategies, solutions to operate within situations that are volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And so they will put themselves, imagine those kind of scenarios, and then develop strategies in terms of how they should survive. And so in the business lexicon that has adopted VUCA, the concept of looking at VUCA for us as business people must also be from that perspective of what strategies do we adopt in order for us to not only survive, but to adapt and to thrive in the middle of this world that we call VUCA, a world that there is high level of volatility, where there are rapid changes in terms of how the market conditions operate. And we know that very clearly with the issues around currency fluctuations in Nigeria, in inflation, even things like shifting customers' demand. The way customer behavior subtly has been shifting over the last couple of years, particularly since post-COVID, and many businesses have not picked up on it. And so that volatility around that, we need to, uncertainty, we are talking about things about predicting, the difficulty in predicting what the future holds, where we feel it's impossible for you to fully determine what is ahead, where there is political instability and what I call economic unpredictability. You cannot predict how the economy in its full ramifications will evolve. And not to talk about all the global, indicators, all the global events or factors that impact on how our business operates. Complexity refers to a business environment that is layered with, our business environment right now is interconnected. The world has grown from, has moved since the era of globalization, has moved from operating in silos to being grossly interconnected. When I was much younger, if something happens in America, it takes us about 2-3 weeks or up to a month to get that information here. Today, as it's happening, I'm seeing it as well. The world has become a lot more interconnected, and as a result of that, has become a lot more complex. Decisions that take place in one environment has impact on how I drive my business today. And the concept of ambiguity, referring to where things are not as clear or as simple as we would have loved them to be. And so in this context, traditional business models struggle. When I started out my career, in consulting, and it was, we had a model as far as consulting is concerned. If you had this type of problem, you had an approach. You start with, you diagnose, you do your diagnosis, you do your, gap analysis and all of that, and then you start preferring solutions. And in preferring the solutions, there's a methodology to it. But as the world has evolved, those traditional models that we used to try and solve problems are changing. What we call VUCA is becoming the norm. I think Owen said it earlier on. I haven't done this research. I wish I could. It would be nice to see what it's doing. It seems to me that the level of volatility, normally in the world, you have, over time in history, you've always had periods of high volatility, and then you have some low volatility or stability and low, and then it will pick up again. And those periods span, sometimes decades, sometimes a couple of years. But it seems to me, just as an observer, as a player in the marketplace, that the level of volatility has not only gone up, but the cycles have become much shorter. We are seeing a lot more, you're hardly having the time to breathe, like we used to have times to breathe, if you understand what I mean. You are having much intense level of volatility, but you're also having those cycles happen more and more frequently. So the concept of VUCA is becoming the norm. It's becoming the new way on how the environment in which we operate and run our businesses work. And so traditional models may no longer be applicable, and we need to rethink, how we run our businesses in those kind of situations. And just to say, Owen also mentioned it, in the middle of what we are calling VUCA, there are people who are also succeeding. So what I want to focus on is not only how to survive. There are three aspects. I want to focus on how to survive. Unfortunately, we can't go into details, but I'll just talk high-level stuff. How to survive, how to adapt, but also how to grow. Yeah? Because in the middle of this VUCA world, there are also opportunities, and people have taken advantage of those opportunities, not only survived, adapted, but have also grown. They've thrived in this scenario. So, a bit about business sustainability itself, the core of it. And like I said, the concept of sustainability I'm talking about here is not from an environmental sense, but more around how a business will survive. There are three legs, in my view, that form the core of what we are talking about when we talk about business sustainability. Number one is survival and growth. Yeah? I mentioned when we think about the sustainability of a business in the middle of a VUCA situation, you have to think about it from the concept of surviving, but also from the angle of growth. So your business does not only need to survive, but also needs to grow. If you focus on just getting your business to survive through a challenging period and not key into the aspects of growth, you are only fighting fires. The second concept, or the second core pillar, is what I call resilience and adaptability. So, in the business sustainability, at the core of it is issues around making sure you are able to create systems that allow you to weather storms. The best time to prepare for, I teach a class on in our group, during the period of COVID, when we had COVID, my chairman, and we manage a lot of entrepreneurs under our foundation. The Tony Elumelu Foundation, has this like 10,000 entrepreneurs across the entire continent. And many of them were having challenges in their businesses and trying to find out what do they do, particularly on the financing side. And I was asked to develop a content around financial management in the middle of a crisis. And one of the core things I said is, if you are only trying to manage your finances when crisis starts, then you're in the horizon of time, you are late. You understand? The best time to manage, the best time to weather storms in the business environment is before the storms come. I don't know if you understand what I mean. You have to. We can deal with how, if you were not prepared, what you may need to do. But that is like, we are doing emergency situation. But the best preparedness you can have for a VUCA world is to be ready, whether there is VUCA or not. Is to run your business in a mode that there is always crisis. I don't know if you understand what I mean. Yeah, it's to manage your business from a perspective that there is always crisis, and then being able to build from there. So resilience and adaptability follows that concept, being able to weather storm, adapt quickly when there are changes, but also seize on opportunities that others might miss, because people miss opportunities, particularly in the middle of a crisis situation. And then the third pillar is what I call operational continuity, and that has to do with retaining your market relevance and building a foundation that is strong enough to withstand external pressures. Two things are important: developing defense mechanisms. When we talk about the core of business sustainability, developing defense mechanism, but also creating attack strategies. And this is exactly what the military kind of do in their strategies around VUCA situations. There are two aspects to it: defense mechanisms and developing attack approaches. And it's a similar thing we need to think about. So if we move then on and we just talk a bit about, just before, I won't dwell on this because I kind of like touched on it, because the next slide I talk on, I think about 3 or 4 strategies that I wanted us to go away with. But just to mention, when you talk about the challenges, particularly in our environment, as it relates to achieving sustainability, there's the issue around economic volatility. We all know that currency devaluation, issues that we're faced with, inflation, price disruptions, supply chains. When we talk about inflation, I always ask, if you ask most people what inflation is about, they tell you, or the definition of inflation. People say the definition of inflation is the increase in price of goods and services. But any good academic will tell you that that is not the definition of inflation. Increase in price of goods and services is the result of inflation. Inflation occurs because there's too much money pursuing too little goods or services. So it's a question of productivity, quite frankly. Yeah. And if you go back to the fundamentals, you find that, and that's why the focus usually when you have high inflation is, the central bank is focusing on increasing interest rates to pull out money from the system so that you don't have too much money chasing the amount of productivity you have in the system, and then therefore prices have to adjust. You understand? But the other way to think about it is, if I can push up productivity within the system, I can also balance that out. If value creation within the system is the concept. So, but in this country, part of the thing, we feel that economic volatility, apart from the fact that we're experiencing that inflation, we have a challenge because we cannot, productivity is difficult to increase that and to increase value creation, because the inputs we need for us to do that are also kind of impacted by price. Supply chains are disrupted, and also there's an impact on customer purchasing power, particularly in our environment. I was looking at a business that we're looking at building a couple of months ago, been studying it for about 2 years, and looked at the cycle. Everything looked good, the kind of things you look at when you're looking as an investor. Say, okay, this is an area we can play in. And the last 2 years, I began to notice a difference. And it began to trigger my mind into a concept which is called demand destruction. So the demand for the service, or what we are looking to go into, is there, or the need is there. Let me put it that way. It's there. It had been growing exponentially for about 5 years. It began to flatten and then it's gradually now going down. And I take a step back, but people need this thing. And you ask yourself, why can't they get it? Simply because of purchasing power. And it's beginning to create, the demand is there, but the demand is being destroyed. I don't know if you understand what I mean. So it's a different kind of thinking. And then you see, okay, what do you do in that? So we have that kind of environment. We have regulatory uncertainty in terms of the complexity of our regulatory environment. And the thing for me, particularly in the sector that I play in, it's not so much as too much regulation. It's more about the cohesiveness of the regulation that we have and the non-integrated fashion of the regulation. So one regulator comes out with this point, and the points or the things that they are pushing, the policies that are being pushed, has a negative impact on another policy that is coming out from another regulator. So there's lack of integration in terms of the thinking. So where I am gaining some benefit here, it is being taken away from me from another place. I don't think you understand. So there's no integrated fashion, which creates some level of uncertainty. There are also issues around infrastructure gaps, but as I was thinking about this a bit more, it's more than infrastructure gaps. It's more of infrastructure and institutional gaps. So there are gaps physically from an infrastructure point of view, logistics, power supply, technology, proliferation, and all of that. But there are also gaps from our institutions. Our legal framework, the rule of law, educational institutions, social infrastructure. There are a number of institutional frameworks that we're also experiencing gaps in this market that exacerbate the challenges that we face as businesses. And then the other one I mentioned is the ambiguous customer expectation. Like I said earlier on, one of the key things I have noticed in some of the business that I kind of like look after in our group is that the customer preference is changing. And it's changing in a very subtle way and quite rapidly, influenced by multiple factors. In fact, people adjust their behavior in the middle environment, particularly in Nigeria. Nigerians, we are very good at surviving. Extremely. Very, very good at surviving. And you find a behavioral adjustment that sometimes is a bit subtle. And as business people, if you are not always looking at things from the perspective of the customer, you may miss. And you may miss opportunities for growth. So let me talk a little bit about some strategies as I begin to push towards the end. So I mentioned about 4. If I had time, I would have dwelled on number 1. Because from my experience, the lifeblood of a business is cash. Businesses live or die on the back of cash. I always tell people, particularly people who run businesses, small businesses, big businesses, or whatever, if it's, I'm an accountant, I'm a chartered accountant, but you will never hear me introduce myself as an accountant. If I don't even write it on my on my list. I love accountants and all of that. I don't hate them. However, that profession creates a lot of ambiguity for business people, because there are rules that govern how accounting books are prepared, and they are designed in such a way for prudency and all of that. But oftentimes they push entrepreneurs or business leaders in a direction that doesn't make them look at the core of the business. You see that thing that they call revenue? That thing that you see and say, my revenue was 2 billion last year. There are businesses who have had great revenues and have been completely destroyed because of how we have to keep records. The worst for me is that thing they call profit. You go most places, people that's not me, I hope. Is it me? It's not me. Okay. Profit. I think it was somebody who said, I can't remember how the quote goes. It says, revenue is vanity, or maybe revenue is sanity. Profit is sanity, one of the two. Because when people, before you arrive at what you are calling profit, a business can be dead and be posting profit. And not that they miss. oftentimes they push entrepreneurs or business leaders in a direction that doesn't make them look at the core of the business. You see that thing that they call revenue? That thing that you see and say, my revenue was 2 billion last year. There are businesses who have had great revenues and have been completely destroyed because of our records, how we have to keep records. The worst for me is that thing they call profit. Profit. I think it was somebody who said, I can't remember how the quote goes. It says, revenue is vanity, or maybe revenue is sanity. Profit is sanity, one of the two. Because when people, before you arrive at what you are calling profit, a business can be dead and be posting profit. And it's only when the debtors or the people, the obligations come and say, please give my money, that you suddenly realize that you are dead. Yeah? Cash is everything. I'm not saying forget as a business person, I'm not saying forget everything you're doing, but be paranoid about your cash flow. Paranoid. If there's anything you ask for every day, is to ask for a simple report. Cash in, cash out, net cash. Every month they can give you the P&L and all of that. You can look at it and celebrate and all of that and submit for regulation. But for managing your business on a daily basis, always look at your cash. And build your strategies, very important, around what do I do to improve my cash in. Not that you can chase all the business in the world. I know Ike is looking at me because but I know my brother, we are together. You can do all the business in the world, and if the cash is not coming in, you'll be dead. So you have to continue. What do I do to improve my cash in? And cash in is not only from the revenue that you earn, right? There are other sources of cash in. Yeah. If you want to know, see me in my lecture on financial management, for which you pay like $1,000 for entry. You focus on your cash in. It's a simple formula. How do I increase cash coming in? And how do I reduce cash going out? Simple. Look at all the things that is taking your cash out and say, what can I do to reduce or manage the way cash is going out? Let me say a little thing about cash going out, because people often misconstrue it. When you talk about cost, there's a difference between cost reduction and cost management. They're completely two different things. Cost reduction or cost savings is a component of cost management, but cost management is much wider. Yeah? So if you talk about, and let me quickly talk about what those components are. So if you talk about cost management, there's a component of cost reduction, cost savings, basically where you say, how can I do this at a lower price? This thing I'm paying for, what can I do to make it cheap? And you can, and you give your finance, your CFO guys, especially in a VUCA situation, or as a normal way of doing your business. Every month when they do your, your monthly reports, or you sit down there, they prepare all your cost lines, and you begin to see the trend and see what is growing, what's not, and start saying, what can we do to reduce this line? So cost reduction, great thing to do. Second thing to think about, what you call cost containment. Cost containment has to do with, you set a budget for something. You say we are going to install a new generator, and it's going to cost us 10 million. What has happened over time, if you do the research, is that most times you don't install that generator for 10 million. You install it for 15 million or 13 million or whatever. You always overshoot that number. But you made that decision based on a cost-benefit analysis or whatever analysis that you did, that I will get this type of value if I spend this type of cost. So you need to have a methodology in place to ensure that you can contain costs within defined budgets that you have. And it's something that is active as you would do your cost savings or cost reduction. Number 3, there's what is called cost avoidance. It doesn't show up in your numbers, but you can take initiatives as a person, as a leader, to avoid certain costs. If I go this way, it will cost me X. If I go that way, it will cost me Y. You try and do things in the way you run your business in a way that you are avoiding certain costs. fourth, cost optimization, or what some people call value enhancement, which is for every naira that I'm spending, you make sure that you are making the best use of that naira. And what do I mean? Some people, they cut costs so much that it impacts on value or impacts on quality, and at the end of the day, they lose business. I always used to say the story. I remember one time when I was a CFO of a bank many years ago, and my CEO was like, "We need to bring down costs. We need to bring down costs." Yes, we've been bringing this thing down. We are coming down 40% every year and all of that. So let's look for more ways to bring down costs. And people started suggesting that in our bathrooms, instead of using, I can't remember what it is, I should start using Izal or start using some Omo or something like that. So, what's that soap? One white soap like this. We should use one soap like that. You can cut costs. We could have held this session that we're having now somewhere else that was cheaper. If you understand what I mean. But it will impact on quality, and as a result, you lose business. Do you understand? So when you talk about cost optimization, it's a different concept from cost reduction. I don't know if you understand what I mean. Yeah? So you're looking at the cost vis-a-vis the value. And sometimes you may pay more than other people are paying for something, but because the value you will get for it over time, you are managing costs by doing that. And then the fourth one is, which most people don't do, is what I call strategic cost management. And for strategic cost management, the concept simply is, don't just look at your books, your financials, to look at how you manage costs, but look at everything you are doing. Sometimes we enter into contracts or agreements that have implied costs in them that we have not taken the time to study. And you may have the opportunity to look at a particular contract or agreement or whatever it is you've gone into, and you see opportunities for you to play with that contract for you to better optimize your costs. You understand what I mean? And it could be your supply, how your supply agreement through your supply chain, and either switching to a different kind of supplier or varying the payment terms in order for you to strategically manage costs. So when we talk about cost management itself, is much broader, and those are the kind of things you need to be thinking in this business. The second strategy you need to think about is what I call strategies around adaptability and flexibility. And what this simply means is that as a business person, you must always know when to pivot. You must always know when to pivot. In a changing environment, don't assume that your traditional model always works. It may work, but always be the type of person that studies the scenario, studies the environment in which you are playing your business, and know when to pivot. That's the way to run business in a VUCA world. You don't run business in a VUCA world, assuming that everything remains the same. It becomes a major asset for you if you're able to understand how to pivot. And when I talk about pivot, it may be things like diversifying your products, like expanding your service option, or changing your supply chain sources. Different things. Can you hear me? This is off. Okay, okay, all right. I think I have water somewhere. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Otherwise, the man just fall down. Just say, what happened to him? He just fell down while he was talking. So it's things like, diversifying your products, looking at your supply chain sources and all of that. But always work with a mentality of adaptability and flexibility.